Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unit 1, Notes 3D. And we're talking today about standard form of an equation. So first thing I'm going to do is get that standard form written down. Okay, so ax plus by is equal to c. So here's the most important thing you need to notice about standard form. In standard form, the x's and the y's are on the same side. And the thing that is just the number is on the other side. So there's really no slope or no y-intercept in this form. This form is mainly used for writing word problems. So we're going to be looking a little bit into that as this unit goes on. Alright, so a, b, and c are all constant coefficients, okay? C is just a constant, a and b are a constant number, but we also may call them coefficients as well. So as I said before, we use this to model situations given two variables, okay? So typically, in order to use standard form, we're going to turn it into slope-intercept form in order to graph the equations. So we use it to write the scenario, and then we'll end up solving for y to get it in slope-intercept form, and that is how we solve it. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what this is going to look like, okay? Make sure you have that all written down on your sheet. So it says for the first one to write the equation in standard form. Okay, well that looks like a lot, but it's really not. Remember, our criteria to be in standard form is that the x's and the y's are by themselves on one side, and the thing that's just a number is on the other side. Well, what I notice on this one, first and foremost, is that my just a number, I have one here and one here. Well, I want that just a number on the other side. I want that 4 on the other side. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So when I do that, I'm left with 3x minus 2y, and then the 4's cancel out, and 9 minus 4 is going to give me 5. And that's it. That's standard form. Okay, 3x minus 2y is equal to 5. That's all I had to do. Same thing with number 2. I don't want this minus 7 there. I want to bring it on over to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So then I get negative 6x minus 5y is equal to 8 plus 7, which is going to be 15. Okay? So negative 6x minus 5y is equal to 15. Let's take a look at number 3. Now number 3 is a little bit different. The problem that I have is that my x's and my y's aren't on the same side. Typically we write our x's and y's on the left side. Well, I see that my y is already over there, but I need my x to be over there. So what I'm going to do is I want to take this negative 2x and bring it over to the other side. Well, I see that it's negative, so that means I need to add 2x to both sides. So then I get 2x plus 3y is going to be equal to 4. So that right there is my final answer. I want to see if you can do something similar with number 4 on your own. So all you have to do on number 4 is figure out how you can get that 4 over to the other side, that 4y. How can you get that over to the other side? Now let's take a look at writing some of these out. That can sometimes be the toughest part. So let's take a look at number 5. You have $10 to buy carrots and tomatoes for a salad. Tomatoes cost $2 per pound, and carrots cost $1.25 per pound, and you have $10 to buy both. So I'm going to let x represent carrots, and I'm going to let y represent tomatoes. So the total I'm going to spend is going to be $10. So for every x pound of carrot that I buy, it's going to cost me $1.25. Okay, for every y pound of tomatoes, it's going to cost me $2. So notice what I did there. I picked a variable for each one, and then I multiplied them each by their price, and I set it equal to the total. That's a lot of the stuff we're going to be doing. Whenever you're dealing with something in standard form, you're going to kind of have to be assigning two different variables, which is something we're not quite used to yet. So let's take a look at number 6. You're moving into a new house. You can carry 56 pounds at one time. Well, we want to be productive, right? I'm going to assume that I want to carry 56 pounds for every single trip that I make. One box of books weighs 18 pounds. One box of clothing weighs 10 pounds. So I'm going to let x represent my boxes of books, and y represent my boxes of clothing. So now we're going to do some multiplying. So for every x box of books that I bring up, I'm bringing up 18 pounds. Then think about it. For every y box of clothing, I am bringing 10 pounds. And this is all you have to do. It's not asking you right now to solve anything. Standard form is very much used just to set things up. So that's what you're doing right now. You're setting things up. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. Okay, taking a look at number 7. You're in charge of buying the hamburger and the chicken for a party. You have $60 to spend. Okay, the hamburger costs $2 per pound and the chicken costs $3 per pound. Write an equation that represents the different amount of hamburger, X, and chicken, Y. So in this problem, it actually assigns it for you. Okay, so we only have $60 to spend. Well, you know what? We are hungry people. So we're going to assume that we're going to spend all $60. So for every X amount of hamburger I buy, well, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how much is that going to cost me? So I know I'm buying hamburger, and then I look at the cost. Okay, that's $2 per pound. So for every X pound of hamburger, it's $2. Then I'm saying, okay, I'm going to buy some chicken. Buying a pound of chicken. For every Y pound of chicken that I buy, it's going to cost me $3. Again, you're just setting these up. Just for curiosity's sake, if you were to graph the scenario on how you would do this, you would solve for Y. And by solving for Y, you would be able to graph it mathematically, the relationship between the hamburger and the chicken. Okay, so that's what we're working towards. Just for this note sheet today, we're just simply trying to get them written, because I know word problems can be extremely confusing. Let's take a look at number 8. You are buying $48 worth of lawn seed that contains 2 types of seeds. One type is quick-growing ryegrass that costs $4 per pound. The other type is higher quality seed that costs $6 per pound. Write an equation that represents the different amount of $4 seed X and $6 seed Y that you could buy. So again, it assigns it. So we're going to just go ahead and assume that we're going to spend the full $48. So whatever amount of money we spend, we want it to be $48. Alright, so let's start with that quick-growing ryegrass. So for every pound of quick-growing ryegrass X, how much is it going to cost me per pound? Well, it's going to cost me $4. For every higher quality seed Y per pound that I buy, per pound Y is going to be $6. So hopefully you're kind of getting the hang of how to set this up. Okay. So now these ones are where we really dive into the mathematics behind it. So it can get a little tricky. In general, when you see something with 2 points and all you're given is 2 points and you have to write a line, the best thing to start with is just getting the slope. You're going to need it at some point. So when we do things in standard form, the order we kind of do, let's just write this out, give us kind of an order. If you want to jot it down, you can. It might be a good idea. Find the slope. Put it in point slope. And then get your X's and Y's on the same side. And that number on the other side. So that's kind of the process that we're going to be going through right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that. So if you don't have it written down, pause it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is calculate out that slope. So let's label x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have y2, whoops, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 7 minus 4 is going to give us 3, and 5 minus 1 is going to give us 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and we are going to, from here, solve and put it in point slope form. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So let's use this point right here. So we have y, and we're making that puzzle. Remember that from the last note sheet, making that puzzle. Our slope is going to be 3/4. And then our opposite of our y-coordinate is -1, and then -4. So we have y minus 1 is equal to 3/4 times x minus 4. So now what I want to do is I want to start by distributing in that 3/4. Remember, my goal is to get that x and y on the side by themselves. So I'm going to distribute in that 3/4. So I have y minus 1 that stays the same. And then 3/4 x. And then now, when I multiply 3 over 4 times a -4, what's going to happen is those 4's will actually cancel each other out, and I'm just left with 3 on top. Okay, so that's something it might take you a little bit to get used to, and that's fine. So now I want to start by getting this x over to the other side. It doesn't matter that it's a fraction right now. I'm not so worried about that. In fact, if the fraction's bothering you, let's write it as a decimal. Let's write it as 0.75x. So I want to get that x over to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 0.75 from both sides. 0.75x. So over here I have a negative 0.75x plus y minus 1 is equal to negative 3. So now I'm going to continue on. And what I want to do is I want to take this minus 1 and get it to the other side. So my thing that's just a number is on the other side. So now I have negative 0.75x plus y, and then negative 3 plus 1 is just negative 2. So that right there is in standard form. Okay, your x's and y's are by themselves on one side. Let's do that again with number 10. So for number 10, we're going to calculate out the slope, x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have negative 5 minus 3 over 0 minus a negative 4. Minus a negative is going to become plus a positive. So we get negative 8 divided by 4, and that's going to give us a negative 4. Okay, so that's for our slope. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that into slope-intercept form. Okay, so I put my slope of negative 4 here, and I'm going to use this point right here. So opposite of my x is going to become plus 4. Opposite of my y is minus 3. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start solving this so I can get it into standard form. I'm going to start by distributing in that negative 3. So y minus 3 is equal to negative 4x. 4 times a negative 4 is negative 16. So from here, we can go ahead and we can solve. So first thing I want to do is I want to get that x on the same side as my y. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. Remember, we want x and y by themselves on one side. So then I have 4x plus y minus 3 is equal to a negative 16. Last but not least, I want that thing that's just a number on the other side. Since it's minus 3, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So then I get 4x plus y is equal to negative 16 plus 3, which is a negative 13. So that right there is your final answer. Okay, let's take a look at number 11. I'm going to do this one mostly out for you. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So first we're going to calculate out the slopes. We have 1 minus 3 divided by 2 minus 1. So 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Negative 2 divided by 1 is simply negative 2. So let's go ahead and let's put that into point slope form. And I'm going to use that first point again. That's just usually my go-to. My slope goes here. Opposite of my y-coordinate is going to be minus 3. Opposite of my x-coordinate is going to be minus 1. So I have y minus 3 is equal to negative 2 x minus 1. So I want you to go ahead and get your x's and y's on the same side. So I want you to distribute, then you're going to bring your x over, and then you're going to have to figure out a way to get that minus 3 over to the other side. Lastly, I want you to do number 12 completely on your own. And I want you to bring me up a completed note sheet. Don't skip any. Make sure you've done everything on the note sheet and everything's filled out. And I will hand out you your homework for the rest of the period. Thanks for listening.